Hello chess enthusiasts, my name is Miha and welcome to my chessrealm YouTube channel. So, FIDE World Chess Championship between Nepo and Dink is still underway, and let's take a look at the fourth game. It was very interesting. Let's see what happened. Dink had white pieces and he started with c4, knight to f6, knight to c3, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, and we have four knights variation of English opening. e3 was played, bishop to b4, queen to c2, pretty much according to the theory. Bishop captures on c3, queen recaptures is the most popular move, but white plays b pawn captures on c3. Now d6. Well, e4 pawn push by black would be quite unpleasant, or so the theory says, so white plays e4, blocking black's e pawn. Now black castles king side, white develops bishop to e2, and now knight to h5, preparing to jump with knight on f4, maybe even f5 pawn push. Anyway, d4 was played by the white, and knight indeed jumps on f4, targeting both bishop on e2 and pawn on g2. Well, white had decided to give up on bishop pair, so bishop captures on f4 and e-pawn recaptures. Now material is totally equal, but both sides have double pawns. But white controls the center, so maybe white has a slight edge. In the game, white castles king side and queen to f6 was played. A very interesting move, maybe preparing g5, then g4 with pressure on the king side. While white is not afraid, rook to e1 was played, rook to e8, counterating on the e file. Now white has more options here, and Dink took some time to reconsider and played bishop to d3, threatening e5, attack on the queen, and then grabbing pawn on h7. Black responds with bishop to g4. Now white cannot allow grabbing the knight and further weakening pawn structure around his king, so knight goes to d2. You might think that f3, trying to open some lines on the king side, is a good idea. Well, after f3, white simply plays h3, attacking the bishop. If bishop goes to h5, then queen d1. Pawn cannot move, or there goes our bishop. And pawn is going to be captured, and white is better. Here black could play bishop captures on h3. Of course, white cannot recapture, or there is queen to g5, mating the next move on g2. So after knight captures on f3, position is slightly favorable for white. In the game, knight to a5 was played, preparing maybe c5, striking the center, but white is on the move and plays c5, trying to get rid of those double pawns along the c file. D pawn captures on c5, but white doesn't recapture. e5 was played, attacking the queen. Queen goes to h6. Black still has to protect pawn on h7, and now white pushes d pawn further to d5. So we have this pawn storm in the center. Rook from a goes to d8. Now c5, cementing this pawn on d5. Black plays b6, protecting knight on a5, also creating a square on b7 for knight on a5 to return to the game, because knight is kinda out of the game. So white is a pawn down, but that's not the end of the world. White is dominating the center, and the center is very well protected. Of course, white would like to jump with knight on f3, his natural square, but after bishop captures, g-pawn recaptures, queen to g5, double attack on the king and the pawn, and there goes another pawn. Now this possibility of f3 pawn push is scaring white, so h3 was played, attacking the bishop. Black has to decide what to do with the bishop. Bishop goes to h5, still keeping the pressure on the f3 square, and now bishop to e4, preparing bishop f3, or maybe knight f3. Black plays rook to e7, preparing to double the rooks along the e file. White responds with queen to c3, further protecting e pawn, and black follows his original plan. Rook from d goes to e8, and now bishop to f3, offering the trade of bishops. Black doesn't go for it and plays knight to b7, activating his knight, of course threatening knight to d6. White cannot capture because rook on e1 would be twice attacked. In the game, rook to e2 was played. A very clever response. Knight to d6 doesn't work anymore. After knight d6, e pawn captures. If rook captures on e2, then simply d7. Rook on e8 has to protect the last rank. Let's say after rook to d8, bishop captures on e2. Even if bishop recaptures, then queen e5 threatening queen to e8, and even after queen d6, queen e8, queen f8, queen captures on e2. White has a piece for 2 pawns, but that's not enough in this position. White is definitely better here. In the game, f6 was played, prompting white to play e6. Well, white definitely cannot capture on f6 because e2 square is 3 times attacked. Pawn on e5 is also 3 times attacked. White has no other option but to push pawn to e6, and black succeeded in his plan. d6 square is no longer attacked, so knight goes to d6. Rook from a goes to e1, and we have heavy artillery protecting and also attacking pawns. And in this position, black almost instantly played knight f5. Well, maybe not the best move. Bishop captures on h5, queen recaptures, and now rook e4, attacking pawn on f4. Queen goes back to h6, defending, and now queen f3, double attack on pawn on f4. Well, black could have easily defended with g5, a very simple and straightforward move, but here, in this position, black makes a terrible blunder. Knight goes to d4. Another move played pretty quick, not taking into account the consequences, and now Ding is on the move and makes a spectacular exchange sacrifice. Rook captures on d4. Well, black has no other option but to accept it, so c-pawn captures on d4. Well, black is exchange and a pawn up, but in this position, black stands very bad. Those who watch live streaming notice that Nepo just couldn't believe what has just happened. White plays knight to b3, preparing to capture on d4, then knight f5, fork, or maybe even knight c6. Rook on e7 is currently kind of trapped. So g5 was played, creating an escape square for the rook. Knight captures on d4, queen to g6, preparing h5, and then rook h7 with at least some counter action on the king's side. White doesn't allow it, so g4 was played. F-pawn captures en passant, f-pawn recaptures, h5, and now knight to f5, attacking the rook. Rook goes to h7. Well, white has to be careful not to open too many files, because then rooks would be given too much power. I mean, g4 is definitely unpleasant, but queen d3 would be a nice tactical opportunity, threatening knight to e7, check and double attack on the king. Even g4 would be playable. Queen to e4 was played in the game. Again, threatening knight to e7. King goes to h8, avoiding this knight fork. And now e7. White has a simple plan. Queen to e6, then to d7. So black plays queen to f7, trying to prevent queen to e6. Indeed, after queen e6, queen captures, rook has to recapture because e7 pawn has to be protected. At some point, white would probably play d6. After c-pawn captures, knight drives the rook away. Still, white would need a lot of precision here to convert this advantage. So in the game, d6 was played. C pawn captures, knight recaptures, queen to g8, knight captures, rook on e8, queen recaptures, queen e6, threatening queen to f6. So king goes to g7, defending pawn on f6. Rook to f1, double attack. Rook to h6, double defending. And now rook goes to d1. Of course, after rook to d8, it's all over. So f5 was played. Queen is under attack. Queen goes to e5 check. King goes to f7. Now white naturally cannot play rook d1, rook d8 because queen e7 then equalizes. So in the game, queen captures pawn on f5 check. Rook goes to f6 defending. Queen to h7 check. King has no other option but to go to e6. And now queen g7. If rook drives king away, then rook is for free. So rook goes to g6, attacking the queen, and now queen to f8. Queen is going to be captured, but if queen captures, then pawn recaptures and promotes. And in this position, Nepo had enough and resigned the game. So I hope you like this game. I hope you have learned something from it. If you have any questions, my email is below in the description. Of course, I invite you to visit my Instagram page. That's it for now, and see you soon.